Because of Joe Biden, I spend a lot of time in courts, federal, state, city. And tomorrow I'll be attending another Biden-inspired federal appeals court argument on presidential immunity in Washington, D.C. Of course, I was entitled as President of the United States and Commander-in-Chief to immunity. I'm entitled to immunity. Every president has immunity, especially one that did the job I did. I did a great job. And I wasn't working for myself, I was working for the country. I wasn't campaigning, the election was long over. I wasn't campaigning. I was looking for voter fraud, something that I have to do under my mandate. I have to look for voter fraud. And I was finding it, tremendous amounts of voter fraud in the 2020 election. We have volumes of information, it's all there. And I was doing my job, which I had to do. And it's my obligation to do, and otherwise, running our country and running it well. We didn't have Russia going into Ukraine. We didn't have Israel under attack. We didn't have China talking every day about going into Taiwan. We didn't have inflation. We had a great economy. If I don't get immunity, then crooked Joe Biden doesn't get immunity, and all of the things he's done to allow the border invasion, millions and millions of people coming into our country, many from prisons, jails, mental institutions, insane asylums, many terrorists coming into our country. That's really allowing insurrection, and come into a situation where he allowed the surrender to Afghanistan. We surrendered, the United States of America surrendered to Afghanistan, where we gave them $85 billion worth of free, the best military equipment anywhere in the world, left thousands of hostages behind, and they were American hostages behind, still there, many of them, and 13 dead soldiers and many soldiers so badly hurt. This is gross incompetence. We did a surrender in Afghanistan. Nothing's ever been so embarrassing in the history of our country. Also, the millions and millions of dollars that went into Joe Biden's pockets with money from foreign countries like Russia, Afghanistan, China, many others. I mean, Joe would be ripe for indictment. So you're saying that Trump shouldn't get immunity, but Joe Biden would? I didn't do anything like he did. I ran a great country. This guy's gotten $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife. What's that all about? And that's the least of it. One of the reasons he's so soft on China is because he received a lot of money from China, and he's afraid to do anything about it or say anything because he knows. He's afraid to say, we have a Manchurian candidate in Joe Biden, we have to get him out. By weaponizing the DOJ against his political opponent, me, Joe Biden has opened a giant Pandora's box. As president, I was protecting our country and doing a great job of doing so, and the historians will be saying that, they already are. But just look around at the complete mess that crooked Joe Biden has caused. He's the worst president in the history of our country by far. He's also the most corrupt president. The least I'm entitled to is presidential immunity, just like any other president would get. I'd be the only one that they would even consider not giving me immunity, because for whatever reason, people are angry that I've done such a good job, and I've replaced people that were corrupt, that were supposed to be president. So take on the fake Biden indictments. They're all Biden indictments. These aren't indictments, as we say, like God coming down from heaven and saying you did something wrong. These were indictments given and pushed by Joe Biden. And he told his DOJ to do it. Don't believe anything else. He told his DOJ to do it. Go and indict him, because he's losing badly in the polls, so badly that he figures this is the only way that he can win. The only problem is that thus far, it's pushed us way up in the polls, higher than anybody's ever been, actually, because people see it's a scam and they see it's a persecution, and they don't like it when it comes to anything, but certainly not when it comes to a president. They're running a political campaign in a dirty way, even worse than they did previously. And frankly, it's never happened in our country before. It only happens in third world countries or banana republics. They're using their Department of Injustice to go after his political appointment. And this is all him, 100% him. He's the one that told them to do it, and they obey his orders. It's a shame. Never happened in the United States before, but it's happened now. And he has to be careful because that can happen to him also. The next president, whoever that may be, has a statute of limitations that go back 6 years. That's a long time, Joe. You have to be very careful. We have to guard and protect our country. We have to do what's right for our country. You don't indict your political opponent because he opposes the corrupt election, which you know was corrupt. Everybody knows it was corrupt. The American public knows it was corrupt. You don't indict your political opponent. Thank you very much.
Trump did not testify today, but he was there. And the U.S. Supreme Court denied special counsel Jack Smith's request to leapfrog this appellate process to fast-track the case, because, you know, he's got a court date he'd like to keep in March. The issue could ultimately come back to the U.S. Supreme Court, though. And the criminal trial before the district court, Judge Tanya Chutkan, is on hold until this whole thing is cleared up. I told you this is a critical day about immunity for a former president of the United States. Ahead of today's proceedings, Donald Trump posted, "Of course I was entitled as President of the United States and Commander-in-Chief to immunity. I wasn't campaigning. The election was long over. I was looking for voter fraud and finding it, which is my obligation to do, and otherwise running our country." That was his post. Here is constitutional attorney Jonathan Turley.
I think that everyone has gotten the message that time is of the essence. When the special counsel went to the Supreme Court, he said it's absolutely urgent that we try President Trump on March or certainly before the election. The court clearly didn't share that sense of urgency. The court is going to address it once it comes up. I also think that the D.C. Circuit is likely to really do a NASCAR pace on this to get it to the Supreme Court.
For the rest of this month, Donald Trump is faced with juggling a presidential campaign and a full bevy of legal engagements. Senior national correspondent Rich Edson has more from the U.S. Court of Appeals in D.C. Of course, his opponents across the political aisle love seeing this.
Yeah, good morning, Harris. You know, you've got the former president. His motorcade just left. He's left the courthouse. We did not hear from him today. We didn't hear from him outside the courtroom. We didn't hear from him inside the courtroom. That wasn't supposed to be part of this today in the hour and 15-minute proceedings. In fact, the former president really didn't even have to be here. He arrived 20 minutes before this all began this morning. His attorney, John Sauer, argued for nearly 45 minutes that presidents and their official acts have total immunity from criminal prosecution. If not, they'd face endless partisan prosecutions. The three judges hearing this issue, Karen Henderson, a George H.W. Bush appointee, and judges Michelle Childs and Florence Pan, both Biden appointees, all three, including the Republican appointee, expressed some skepticism.
I think it's paradoxical to say that his constitutional duty to take care that the laws be faithfully executed allows him to violate criminal laws.
Though Judge Henderson said she also worried about opening the floodgates of prosecuting former presidents. Special counsel Jack Smith's office argued that there has never been a case before where a president conspired with private individuals to use the levers of power to stay in office after losing an election. Attorney James Pierce argued for the special counsel's office and says that type of sweeping immunity would lead to an extraordinarily frightening future.
What kind of world are we living in if, as I understood my friend on the other side to say here, a president orders his SEAL team to assassinate a political rival and resigns, for example, before an impeachment? Not a criminal act.
Now, the judges could rule quickly on this one. That would likely lead to an appeal to the Supreme Court. Trump's election interference case is scheduled to begin March 4th, but this issue has to all be cleared up before that begins, likely delaying that start date.
Yeah, you're talking
Harris?
specifically about the thirst that Jack Smith has already expressed because of that March 4th date. 2 days later is Super Tuesday. So it's a critical point in the primary process as well.